Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jacob Restituto. I'm a musician from Northport, New York. This is my series called The Business of Music. My goal with this series is to help other artists like myself make and save as much money as possible. Being in the music industry, I've seen a lot of artists struggle with the fact of they're really creative, but they have no idea how business works, or they don't really care. And I think it's really important to have the balance of both. And some might not be able to have the balance. Some are way more creative than they are analytical. But I think having a general base of knowledge is going to help a lot of musicians in the long run. I mean, how many times have we heard the stories of like these big superstars getting screwed over because they didn't read their contracts or understand their contracts even more full. That being said, today's topic is knowing your worth and talking about how to negotiate your worth and negotiating prices with people around you. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is knowing your worth. In that being said, there's a couple things about that. So you have to know your area. Where are you in? I live in New York. You know, New York is expensive, so people are willing to pay a lot more than if you're in the middle of some small town. Middletown, USA is a lot cheaper and a lot, like, there's a lot less competition to some degree too. You know, so know your worth, know your area. You know, what are we people willing to pay? What are other artists and other people in your industry charging at the moment? So you can stack your prices, and then you also have to know what it's worth for you to do that. You know, so for example, if it's to play a gig, what's your hourly rate? Go into that conversation knowing your hourly rate rather than figuring it out on the spot. Know your hourly rate, have a general idea of what other artists are paying, and if you're more than them, why are you worth more? Now, there could be a couple of reasons why you might think you're worth more, and it very well be true. It may just be the fact that it's not worth it for you to take that gig unless you make this amount of money. You know, things that would go into that are the fact of like, when is the gig? Is it a Saturday night? Do you have other options for that gig? Something else to consider is I give music lessons. I know in my area, say for example, the average charging price is $35 or $40 for a half an hour. And these are people that went to college for music and have degrees and have all these students and are older than me. They charge about $35 to $40 an hour, or a half an hour. So that being said, I went to the industry, okay, I would charge less than that because I was just starting out. Then I got off to charging that amount. And then I got to this point where I'm like, I don't really want to take on more students, or if I do, it has to be really worth my time. So I just put out a crazy number out there. And I'm like, you know what, let me try 65 for a half an hour, which is almost like 1.5 times what these people with degrees, you know, I don't have a degree, are charging. And people were like, okay, yeah, sounds great. Because, you know, I've had so much word of mouth. I have all these students that are word of mouth. People are willing to pay that. So test out prices. You know, you don't have to set your prices next to everybody else. You know, if it's not worth it for you, then don't do it. But be willing to lose a student. I've had a lot of people say, I'm sorry, I can't afford your price. And I have to be like, I have to make a decision right there. I can drop it a little, but I can't go from 65 to 40 because that's a huge gap, and they're gonna be like, you're totally ripping me off. Why would you be willing to do it for 40 when now you're willing to do it for 65? That also being said, think about previous transactions and previous conversations you've had with people. For example, if you put your number out there, you say, oh, I'm gonna charge $100 for this gig, and people will be like, yeah, sounds great. Immediately, keep that in mind. Be like, okay, well, they said that's a great price. So like, maybe next time somebody asks me for that same gig, I'm going to say, actually, I'm going to do it for 125 because 100 they were totally fine with. So maybe let me push the envelope a little more, 125. You know what I mean? See how they respond to that. They say, yes, great. So next time, 130. You know, kind of keep creeping that price up until you hit a ceiling where they're like, I don't know, that seems like a lot. Then you can have this conversation and be like, all right, you know what, for you this time, I could do it for 125 instead of 130. Know your prices in advance and offer the higher number first. So for example, if it is a range, they're like, how much would it charge to do this? Then you could say somewhere in the range of 1,000 to 600. Because if you really know that it's probably closer to 600, when you throw out 1,000, they'll be kind of like, whoa, that's way more than I expected, and they'll be way more willing to pay your 600 or 700 in the long run. And they'll actually think that they're getting a deal. When you come back to them and be like, oh, it only costs 655, you know, they had that 1,000 in their head, but now they're like, oh, 655, great. You know what I mean? And then you have a lot more leverage rather than if you put your top number at first, you know, you say, oh, it's probably going to cost between 600 and maybe 400 when you really want or need 600, you're automatically setting yourself up to go lower. But if you set yourself higher, then you can slowly work down to a price that you really like. The last thing I want to say is know how bad you want the job or how bad you need the job. If you really need to make ends meet this week, you know, maybe you just need to take it for less than you might want to. But if you don't need it, you have a lot more negotiating power. Be willing to walk away. Be willing to say, okay, I'm sorry, I can't do it for that price. You know, set yourself up. Don't just take every single gig unless that's your mindset. You know, you want to do as many as possible. but be willing to say no to places. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope this helps you build your career and also make a little extra money this week, because you know what? You gotta pay the bills, and I want you guys to succeed. I hope that these helped. I hope you enjoy it. If you want to check out my music, it's Jacob Restituto wherever you listen. And you can also text me 1-833-575-0948. Have a great Restituto day. God bless and peace out.